Hey everybody, Carol here. I want to talk to you today about intuition, being a psychic, being a medium, and what these terms actually mean, because they're very, very different. And it's really important that we understand as either practitioners, whether we're a sitter seeking to use the skills of these individuals, or whether we're just budding and growing and evolving ourselves. These terms are sometimes interchangeable, but we need to understand the process behind each one of those. So I want to highlight those very briefly for you today. Now, first of all, I want to start with the medium. I think most of us understand. I think if you're here watching, you would understand that a medium is someone who connects with what we consider departed loved ones. However, what's really happening with the medium is they're connecting with consciousness, right? They are connecting with someone who does not exist in physical form. So we call that a discarnate being. Sometimes you'll find people calling spirits loved ones. Any of those terminologies are fine. And so the medium is doing that with consciousness. Now they're using a psychic process, right? They're still receiving it through thoughts, feelings, emotions, physical sensations. So those things are very important because they are the psychic process, but what they're connecting with is just the consciousness, okay? Now, we know that mediums are psychic, but not all mediums do psychic work, just as some psychics do not do mediumship work. And that's where that becomes a little confusing, and I think we need to be very careful about that terminology. Because you can get a medium and you're going to sit down, they're going to give you a wonderful reading with perhaps your loved one, and then you're going to start asking about your life and perhaps maybe even something that's going on for you, and they may not be able to make that connection. So it's kind of like saying a medical doctor should know everything, right? We have specialties when it comes to how we use our psychic abilities. So we need to be very careful that we understand and that the person that you're seeing can kind of verbalize to you what their skill set is. And if you're growing and you're saying, well, I don't know that skill set yet, that's okay. Don't put that pressure on yourself. You're going to get there and you're going to find it. So let's get back to what a psychic is, okay? So a psychic would be someone, let's say where I'm reading you, right? You and I sit down together and I get information about you, what's going on in your life, some of your health stuff. I'm utilizing the same process that the medium is. It's all information that comes through thoughts, feelings, emotions, physical sensations. The process is the same. It's just what am I connecting with that's different. And so in this case, it might be you. It might be a historical building. Let's say, for example, if you're on a paranormal investigation, we have the ability to use psychometry to hold an object and to read information that's coming from that object or to interpret what's coming off that object. This all involves the psychic process, but we consider that person a psychic, not necessarily a medium. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky, and I won't hit on it for too long. But a psychic can tell you about your departed loved one, but it doesn't mean that they're communicating with your departed loved one. And that's really, really important to know, because as psychics, we can read information that's coming from you. But to hear from your departed loved one involves kind of a different process, but similar. But there's also an awareness that comes with that who you're talking to is providing messages and insight. And so it's very conscious and aware as opposed to reading the history or the past. So just understand those differences. I'm not going to kind of highlight that any more than that for today. Just want you to understand that there are some very distinct differences there. Now I want to talk about intuition and intuitive, right? Because those are important as well. Sometimes you'll find that people that do psychic work, whether they're a medium or a psychic, they may use the word intuitive. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. There's a big stigma when it comes to using the word psychic, right? You talk about it and you go, oh, fortune teller, gypsy, fraud, charlatan, fake, delusional, ill. So unfortunately, this negative stigma that comes with being psychic has caused a lot of people to use the word intuitive. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. For a long time, I kind of went back and forth about how I wanted to label myself. And I think that intuitive is a gentler term, and it's one that you could use with someone if you find that that person is maybe a little adverse to the psychic. It can kind of be a gentle in. But the other thing that's really important is we need to be careful to understand that the intuitive process is not the same as the psychic process, right? Okay. So how do we know that difference? And I think one of the important things about intuition that we need to understand is it comes from an awareness of our physical environment, okay? So a really good example is when let's say, for example, you take a look at a person, right? If you're looking at me now, you are making a lot of assessments and judgments based on how I look, what I'm wearing, what I'm saying, how I speak. You're seeing my background. You get a feel for who I am intuitively. We are designed as human beings to make snap decisions about people that allow us to survive, to allow us to make critical assessments about others. Now, let's say, for example, you were someone that grew up in a household where there was a lot of emotional turmoil. You may be even more hyper-vigilant to certain behaviors in individuals that make you feel like you're psychic. And you may be extremely observational, but these are still coming from clues, data, information that's in the physical environment, things that you are observing and perceiving, even if they're happening at the subconscious level. Okay, so we need to understand that. So how do you know, well, how is it psychic or how is it intuitive? And one of the really good ways is let's say I was talking to you today and I had my video off. And then I said to you, I want you to give some impressions about me. You're going to probably really clue into my voice. You're going to say, oh, she talks fast. She has this, and this type about her personality. It's very difficult not to make these intuitive assessments about others or even about our world around us. They are a survival skill, but they're intuitive because they come from physical observations, okay? Psychic does not come from physical observations. So if I said to you, gee, you're getting ready to move next month, you're going to go to a new location, you're going to be taking on a new job, there is nothing about you that I can intuit from that. That has to come from a place of psychic, right? So psychic information, it can be about feelings and emotions, but feelings and emotions can be interpreted. So where is that fine tune? Where is that balance, right? And so that's where some of the confusion comes in. So again, it's really important to just understand these differences in these processes. That's the first thing. The second thing is understand that these are terms. We need to understand them as practitioners and as students so that we're capable of saying, did I get this psychically? Am I intuiting about this person? If I'm intuiting, one of the things that I wanted to do is I only wanted to do phone readings for a really long period of time. I didn't want any visual feedback or any visual stimuli from the people that I was connecting with because I needed to learn to bring that psychic signal forward. And that forces us to have to shut down the other physical stimuli to limit that physical stimuli. So understanding these differences for yourself, for your own development is important. It's also an ethical issue, right? Because if I'm reading you, if I'm getting information from you in your past, I should not be telling you that I'm connecting with a departed loved one unless I'm really sure about that. And so it's important to know these differences, to be aware of how that information is coming through. If you're beginning and just developing, please don't get down on yourself and say, gee, I don't know, so I can't pursue it. That's not true. It took me a really long time to start to kind of get a feel for where information was coming from and how it worked for me, because we're all very different individuals. So I'm encouraging you to practice. I'm encouraging you to explore, but I want you to understand these very critical differences. I remember early on, and this was probably about a good, 10 years or so ago, I was sitting at a table with some other individuals who were psychic. We were at a metaphysical store, and I was looking to these individuals to explain things to me. And I said to them, what's the difference between being intuitive and being psychic? And quite frankly, none of them had an answer. And I found that rather interesting that they weren't able to verbalize. For them, it all kind of blurred together. And I do believe that our awarenesses and our insights do blur. We are intuitively picking up all the time through our physical perceptions, through observations, subconsciously or consciously. But we are also all getting information from psi, from awareness or psychic. I haven't used the word psi before, sorry, but psychic information. And that also comes in all of these very subtle forms. And so they can blur together. But as we become more practiced, that's where we want to learn how to pull those apart. And we'll start to distinguish what's coming from where. So anyway, take a look at those terms, see what you think about those. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll have my information and some links down below. Please like, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll have another lesson for you. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.